And welcome back to the Beef and Barnzy Show, a special Tuesday evening edition. And once again, I am joined by my spirited co-host, recent negative COVID tester, and two-time winner and internet personality, Pete Stew. How are you today?
I'm great. I haven't had a COVID test today, so I'm already feeling better. To be fair, for somebody who is as much of a wimp as I am in relation to almost everything like that, it really wasn't that bad. It looked way worse if you watch that video without sound. If you watch the video with sound, I'm coughing, but if you watch it without sound, it really looks like I'm sobbing as the nurse is sticking that thing up my nose. But it really isn't that bad. It's just a weird sensation.
Yeah, it kind of catches the gag reflex a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's not even so much that. It's just like, yeah, the nurse described it as having almost feeling like water went up your nose, and it's a bit like that. It's uncomfortable. It's not in any way painful. I think it's probably the best way.
Well, that's probably good.
It's just a little uncomfortable. So, and most of those things are always worse the more you think about them, rather than anything else. So, yeah, that was that. But now you are the PBA bowling everything. You are the promoter right now, Chris.
Do you think so?
Like Tuesday afternoon action. It's like you're part of the coffee league. You and AJ Chapman setting Facebook alight again today. Another 40,000 views. Oh no, Johnny's disappeared. Oh god. Oh boy. So yeah. I'm really loving it. Del Powell, I assume he's talking about COVID tests. Try doing it 5 times in 2 weeks. Yeah. Del has had some health issues and he has to do it. Yeah, here it is. Every time he has to visit the VA, he has to have a COVID test before he can get in. So that's super awesome. But yeah, tell us a little bit about today then, Chris. Who won? Who lost? What was the whose feelings got hurt?
Yeah, I mean, we only bowled like 3 games, and so it was on the short. It was supposed to be short and long. Mechanic didn't hit the other button, so it was short and short in a place where the short kind of is not very nice. And so I was the only one that didn't have opens in the. I didn't miss any spares in the first game, so my 199 was plenty good. And then after that, they got a little higher. But yeah, it was tricky. It was tricky. It looks like we got Johnny back here. So
okay, well, without further ado, then.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to waste any more time. This gentleman joined the PBA in 1965. He has a 14-time PBA titleist, 8 senior PBA titles. He's won a PBA title in 6 decades. He's been on the Brunswick staff now. It will soon be 50 years. He's sneaking up on 50 years with Brunswick, and he's a player that I'm fortunate enough to have joined as one of 7 in the PBA's Triple Crown. He is the Godfather, Johnny Petraglia. How are you?
Godfather.
Yeah.
Hi, Chris. We're trying again. It's great being back. You too, Stu. It's good seeing you.
Yeah, you too, Johnny. We were just commenting off air. You've had your haircut now, so
I got a haircut.
More comfortable.
Man, that was pretty interesting. They had plastic drapes up. You had to have your temperature taken and sanitize your hands, wear your mask. But they got it done, so it's shorter finally. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely COVID-19 proof living, I guess. I don't know where we're going next, but I hope we can find a path to the other side. That's for sure.
Yeah, me too. We need a vaccine. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be best, I guess. I mean, next up, the Villages is the next thing on the schedule now with the Lucy off, and that's the second weekend in August. And a couple weeks ago, I would have said that's 95% definitely going, and now I'm not sure, but I don't know if anybody really knows right now.
I don't think so. I think in the next 3 weeks, we'll have to make a decision. If things change, if things get better in Florida, and they got to come up with some rules where I think it'd be tough bowling in a mask with a mask on, but it seems like they're going to have to really spread us out. 4 in a pair just isn't going to work unless there's some kind of major change over the next month.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've bowled, Sue and I both have multiple events. Every event I bowled in has been an over-under, age tournament of some sort. And it's been basically with normal 4 in a pair moves and the whole thing. And no one that I know of has been sick. And so.
Right. Yeah, me neither. That's true.
So,
yeah.
We keep hearing about all these cases, but once again, it's not inside the bowling circle that I'm aware of.
That's a good point. It's pretty amazing, actually. Yeah.
I did hear of a couple of issues in San Antonio, but I don't 100% know for sure that they were caused by a bowling tournament, ironically enough.
Yeah.
Nacho is asking me, was the nostril test painful? No, not really. Just weird.
Yeah.
It's certainly not painful. It's a little uncomfortable. And when you watch how far the nurse put the stick in the second time, you would think it would be really painful, but it really wasn't. It was just an odd feeling. I think that's the best way to describe it. So,
well, I had surgery about I don't know, maybe it's a month and a half now, and you had to be tested before you went in for surgery, and they used the saliva test. They didn't go in the nostril. They had you spit in a tube.
Okay.
There's no pain there at all. That was a good one.
Well, Timmy told me that he said, I was talking to Tim Mack about it, and he's saying he had a COVID test, and went, oh man, that sucks, when they had to go up the nose or whatever. And Timmy said, oh, big deal. They've stuck a pipe up there before. I don't care about like a tiny little swab. So I guess it's all relative always.
Yeah, that's true.
Jonathan Nixon here saying, Johnny is the first person I watched shoot 300 on TV. Well, that's an interesting segue, because that is exactly where we lost connection last time. So
that's exactly right. Yeah.
We're going to pick up where we left off. Bang. We have Walter Ray here.
So are you in the beginning? Yeah, you're in the beginning of the game here, right?
Yeah. So what was the situation here, Johnny? Were you coming up the ladder? Was Walter the top seed? Were you the top seed?
Yeah, I was in. I had bowled Eric Forkel first, and I beat Eric, and I had to bowl Walter. And by the time I got to Walter, and the way Walter was bowling all week, it was I can't make any mistakes. I just trying to figure out what I think Walter's going to shoot, and what happens if you watch after I start with a double is something very, very rarely that you would ever see is Walter loses the ball in the second frame, and it comes off. Instead of him getting it over the line, you'll see Walter's ball get down on the surface really early, and the ball doesn't finish, and he leaves the left-hander's baby split and doesn't make it, and which to me was just a shock, and so I know this may not be the right way to think, but this is how I was thinking at the time. I said, holy mackerel, Walter opened in the second. Now watch here, he lays it short, and so the ball just sort of hangs on him rather than finishing. And so in my head I go, Walter can shoot 267.
Yeah.
1 ring in 10 is 246, and even though it's Walter, my number is 247. I've got about 247, and it doesn't matter what he does. And that's pretty much the way that I thought at that point. And then I guess it's the fourth frame when Walter doesn't double. Holy mackerel, he can only be in the 220s. This is unbelievable. It just the 300 didn't even come into my head until I guess the eighth frame, I guess right around there, but when the game is out of the wood. But there's a couple of great things that happened here during the 300 was the people talk about that when it's over. I said my kids can go to college. I'm so happy now I got this money. And I think that the reason that that Lickstein pretty much tackles me at the end of the game is because the night before, after I had made the show, Larry and I was sitting down talking. And we were looking at what the prize fund was, and it was like 15,000 first and 12,000 second or something like that. And I was saying to Larry, I just was doing my taxes, came from the accountant, and tried to find out. My kids are 9 and 3. What's it going to cost for college? And it was some ridiculous numbers. And when you put the two of them together, it came out to like $300,000. Where are you going to get $300,000? And so that I think that when I threw the last strike to win the $100,000, and you saying, I can put these in a college trust, and one's going to be there for 10 years, and the other one's going to be there for 15 years before they go to college, and it should build up and maybe cover college. And that really, it hit me because of the conversation from the night before with Larry. And I get the feeling that the way Larry tackled me, it was just that it had something to do with that. It was a really interesting moment,
It's funny you say that, because I was actually talking to Chris about this when we were rewatching it when your internet had gone out. And I said, oh, that just shows that Johnny was much better at tipping than we are with Keith. Lichkin came running in and said, yeah, horse.
Yeah, that's true. That's what he did. Yeah.
Well, I guess we're going to watch the advert. There we go.
And the other cool thing here is that a couple of the great things that happened was the night before. I'm using a green quantum on the show, if you notice, and the pin is above the ring. And when we were bowling the practice session, the shot was in, and I had a really nice shot, and Ray Edwards from Brunswick comes up to me and says, here's a forest green quantum, throw it. And when I threw it, the ball just hooked off the lane. It hooked so much. And I said, Ray, I just don't know when I'm going to have a chance to use this ball. And he goes, doesn't matter. Leave it in the locker room with your bowling balls as part of your arsenal. You never know when you're going to need it. And then on the show, the lanes were pretty much the same until about 10 minutes before airtime. And I don't know what caused it, but all of a sudden the lanes started getting tighter and tighter and tighter for both the left and the right. Eric and I lost our hook, and the same thing happened on the right. They kept moving out further and further. And I'm in the first match, and Ray Edwards says, where's the forest green quantum? And I said, it's in the paddock. And, we're on 25 and 6, and the paddock's behind 59 and 60. And Ray runs to the paddock and grabs the ball and comes running back all the way to 25 and 6. And when he hands me the ball, Johnny Campos, who was tournament director then, he says to me and Eric, one more shot on each lane, gentlemen, and we're ready to go on the air. So Ray tells me, step in, I want you to stand on about 40 and look at 20. And I throw the first shot, and he asked me to move a little bit deeper on the shot on the right lane. And he goes, I would start with that bowling ball. And first game, I shoot 230, and Eric bowled 180. And Eric bowled 180 because his ball, he couldn't get it to finish. And this ball worked great. And then 300 happened the next game. So if Ray Edwards isn't there, I think I'd bowl 190 like everybody else. And
so I'm going to ask,
But
was the incentive phenomenal to wear this thing here that you've got on your index finger?
Oh, you mean the Super Touch? Yeah, that was, actually the Super Touch really worked because I used to bend my index finger up and that would keep it straight. And it was really good. And it had come out on the market and it was selling pretty well. And then my sponsor died, who was, funding and working on the whole thing. And then this is, I don't know how many years later, when somebody else wants to try and come out with it. That's how that happened. The two really cool things about the 300 is that in the movie Greedy, that where I was coaching Michael J. Fox, he plays a professional bowler, and he has to win this last game to get the announcing job in the movies, and if he doesn't, he's got to go to Kirk Douglas and ask him for money because he's the rich guy in the family. And I bowled 289 the last game to pass Michael J. Fox to knock him off the show in the movie. And so the movie it premieres on Friday, March the 4th. And this is March the 4th, the night before. This is on March the 5th that this happens. And while it's happening in the movie, the same thing happened in the lanes. That's really scary because in the 23rd game, I shot 279 to go from 8th to 5th and then win the last game to make the show. So what was happening in the theaters happened in real life, which really makes you start to wonder.
Well, it's like we say, sports is the best scripts.
Yeah. And then came, the greatest thing of all here. But I know that we should concentrate on the game a little bit here. But, right about, like I said, holy mackerel, I got the front 8. I can bowl 300. I can send the kids to college if I can just do this. And the thing that's really interesting is sometimes you can get so hyped up is when I watch the replay, especially the 11th one, when the headpin comes off the wall, takes out the A-pin, is I ended up where the ABC cables are on I don't know how many, 4 lanes down or something. I don't ever remember running it out. And when I got up and walking back to the ball return, I'm going, how did I get here? I have no idea how I got that far. And I guess you get so psyched sometimes that the other great thing that happened is the shot was in. And I'm a much better inside bowler than I am an outside bowler. I just don't get enough shots to play there. But when I was in Garden City in 78, I shot 298, choked on the last shot. That's because I was playing way out. The last thing I was thinking about, I said, oh my God, don't throw a gutter ball on an 11 in a row. So,
it happens, folks.
This came out, I'm not going to throw it in the gutter. I'm so deep, I don't have to worry about that.
So how old were you at this point, Johnny?
What was that, Stu?
How old were you when this game was being
47? I'm 47 when this game happens.
I don't think that I could slide one out on my knees now at 39 and get up, and you do it like 3 frames running. Oh, see, this is the problem. When you're too cheap to pay for the YouTube without.
Oh my God! I see. Okay, yeah, this is the one where, I slide on my knees into the cables. I still don't know how I got that far. I just.
I don't think I've ever been confident enough on TV to slide one out on my knees.
Well, it's the same thing. I didn't even know I was doing it, and that headpin had eyes. Thankfully, just. The cables are there.
No, it was amazing. I mean,
so on the 12th shot here, when I watch the replay of this, I'm surprised that as hard as Larry hit me, that I was still standing. He just about knocked me over.
Yeah, and, I was so convinced that he was on like a 10% tip or something. The way he came running out, screaming, "Yeah, horse, mop, slick."
Yeah. That's good. So, and the best start of this, here you go. It's
Here he comes. Bang!
The best part of this whole story is when I'm walking off the set as the show is coming to an end. The lady at the desk, I had to walk by the desk. The lady at the desk says to me, line 4 here is for you. It's the White House. And I said, no, it isn't. It's a prank call. Just hang up. Don't worry about it. And she says, oh, they're very insistent that this is the White House and they want to talk to you. And I said, look, Bill Clinton isn't sitting in the White House watching the Pro Bowlers tour, and before we're even off the air, calling, I said, things like that just don't happen. So it's a crank call. And the lady says to me, maybe you're right, but I'm not going to be the one that's going to hang up on the President of the United States just in case you're wrong. And so I said, okay. So I grabbed the phone. I said, all right, I'll do it. And I pick up the phone and I said, hi, this is John. And on the other end of the phone, the guy says, John, my name is Joe Cirillo, and I own the White House Tavern in Chicago. And he says, and you don't know me from Adam, but the whole bar is going nuts, and we just had to call you up. I'm getting a call from the real White House. I thought it was just great.
But at the same time, it was kind of cool he answered, because it was probably more fun talking to him than it would have been talking to the president. So, I mean, if Chris had won the tournament in Jonesboro the other day, we'd have called him up from the we were watching at the tournament in Kentucky. We'd have called him up because we were all cheering him on as he was shoulder barging AJ.
Oh, by the way, congratulations. I feel that's bad.
So yeah. So, Chris, where are we going now?
Well, there's a couple of ways we could go. I guess first of all, some people know, some people don't know. Obviously, you're very heavily involved with the veterans, and you served yourself. Having gotten to know Barry Asher, he tells a little story about taking you and then being there when you come back. But tell us a little bit about your time. I think I think it's one of the many great things that about you, and so just want to hear a little bit about it in your words.
Well, the thing with Barry, first of all, I got sent to Oakland, and Barry was the guy that was in charge of a lot of the troops, putting them on the plane. That's what his job was, getting everybody in the staging area, and you were going to be there about 3 days and having everything right. And Barry was able to get me off the base every night so we could go into San Francisco and party. And we met Jim Godman every night and had a good time in San Francisco.
A lot of non-alcoholic beers there. All right.
Yeah. And then, came the day that I had to leave. And when we were getting on the plane, you were on the tarmac and you had to walk up the stairs. And so Barry was there. And as I got to the top and I looked back, Barry was the one that said, I'll be here. I'll be right here when you get back. And, things that sometimes phrases mean something. Barry didn't say, if you get back, that was very important. We say when you get back. It meant a lot, and my time in Vietnam wasn't that bad except for the Tet Offensive. The Tet Offensive was, for the people that may not know, it was the Vietnamese Lunar New Year was on January 31st every year. That's when they celebrate their Lunar New Year. And they had been planning for years. There was always a one-day truce so that they could celebrate their holiday. And the North Vietnamese had been planning for years to attack every military installation at the same time. And the whole plan was, if you ever read about it, was to kill all 400,000 of us because nobody could help anybody else. And at that time, I had made squad leader. And so I had 12 men. And we got sent to a place called Newport Dock, where the Vietnamese wanted it really badly, and we were there for 3 days, surrounded and stuff. And it was pretty bad, and two of the guys in my squad were wounded, and but I didn't lose anybody, and let's move on. Okay.
No, well, we
so now we have I'm involved with the BVL, which is the Bowlers Veterans Link, and we've raised a lot of money over the years. We raise about $1 million a year. They've been around since 1942, all the way back to Helen Duval, which is the one that really wanted to bowl. It started, and the Harry Truman opened up the first lanes in the VA hospital, and it's been going ever since. And so we have the tournament now in Clearwater, hopefully again next year. You know, it's been canceled for this year, where last year we raised $70,000 at the tournament, and it's a really good organization because it's mostly volunteers. So only 8 cents of every dollar comes out for expenses. 92 cents goes directly to the vet, and you know, they're the ones that keep us free. So they're the ones we got to help.
Well, we don't want to drag you down too much, but I do. You know, along with several others, I have uncles that served as well, and so we want to thank you for what you did when you were called, and so I appreciate your service for sure.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Johnny.
I don't know. So there was you had a ball, and still do all these years later. That they got brought up.
Oh, there's the Hudson one. 51.
I think you told me the story, but I want to hear. So I want to hear out of your words. This came out the same time as the LT-48, right?
Yes, it did. And what had happened was we had been negotiating a long time, like 6 months, me in Brunswick, about a bowling ball coming out. The LT, the rubber, you know, was a really good bowling ball, and we finally came to an agreement that my name was going to go on the rubber bowling ball, and then they said that that they decided that they were going to come out with 3 at the same time. There was going to be the LT-48 with my name on it, and Judy's name was going to go on. There was going to be a Judy Sutar ball, and there was going to be a right-hander on the plastic ball. And they asked me, could I recommend who I thought they should try to sign for the Brunswick plastic ball. And I gave them 5 names. I gave them Roth, Holman, Tommy Hudson, Steve Neff, and my God. Oh, God. I can't even remember the 5th. This is really terrible. Eddie Ressler was the 5th that I had recommended, and both Mark Roth and Holman didn't want to leave Columbia, which was understandable, especially then with the yellow dot and everything. And Tommy Hudson was 3rd, and Tommy said yeah, and that's how Tommy ended up on the bowling ball. So.
So what did the LT stand for? Anything in particular? Why was it 48? And why was it 51? Yeah,
the ball LT-48 is because the chemist that worked for Brunswick at that time, who came up with the cover stock, his name was Louis Trier, and he was 48 years old. And that's how LT-48 came to being. And he's the one that came up with the cover that would really soak up all the oil, and that's what made the ball so good. That was the first ball that really soaked in the oil instead of it just staying on the outside, and so the ball would just hook more than anything else in the back end of that time until the angle came out in 80, 81, something like that. So from 77, 78, 79, and 80, the LT really dominated. And then we got into urethane after that. But it still sold for a few more years. The ball did really well.
Okay, let's ask the question that everybody's wondering. Did that make you rich, that LT-48? Was that a good deal for the Johnny Petraglia household?
Did it make me rich? Well, I really can't get into the whole story. I did very well with the bowling ball.
Okay.
But other factors came into play that what I made from the bowling ball, I also was embezzled out of it, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Okay.
So
well,
I could have been rich. I guess I would have been it.
What did you get? What was your deal on that? Did you get a?
I don't think I should say that. You know what I got. You know, it was, but it was a good deal. It was a very good deal.
How many? Well, tell us how many LT-48s got sold over the lifespan?
Almost 500,000.
Oh, that's awesome.
They did. They were selling about 50,000 a year for quite a few years. But that's how bowling balls went then. You know, remember at that time, a ball would come out like the Black Beauty. The Black Beauty sold for 20 years. You know, balls. There wasn't, you know, what's the flavor of the week? You know, the way it is now, where what did they say? The lifespan of a ball now is like 76 days or something like that. A person comes into the shop. What do you got that's new? Well, everything up here. Oh no, I saw that one 2 months ago. What do you got that's new? You know, that's the kind of stuff that'll come out of customers' mouth now.
I expect that somebody like Packy, you know, a fellow left-hander here, but who's going to be the next bowler with their name on the ball? I'm going to go with Belmonte. It'll be an amazing case.
I don't, you know, I know that I don't know why they don't come out with more names on bowling balls, but because I think companies get worried that what happens if that person decides to leave the company, or the ball is selling and demands more the following year. So if you come out with a ball, I guess Belmonte's ball was the timeless. Mm-hmm. If it's you know, if he doesn't want to be with the company anymore, okay, so the timeless comes off the market. But a Belmonte ball coming off the market through the contract negotiations could be a problem. And I think that's why they've gotten away from putting names on bowling balls. But I think that I think they should. I think that I don't know. I look at golf, and that doesn't seem to happen in golf either. I mean, if you thought about it, when Tiger Woods was dominating before fairway medals came out, there not be Tiger Woods clubs. You know, it seemed like an automatic, but there never was. So
I think it has to do with the companies just in all sports. For stuff like that, they figure they're going to sell a certain percent. They're going to sell a certain amount anyway. So they'd have to make a lot more to make up for the fact that they have to give a royalty for every ball that they sold that they were probably going to sell anyway. Does that kind of make sense? So yeah, you would have to sell way more balls in a bowling ball terms to make up for the fact that you have to pay on that first section of balls that you were going to sell anyway. So
yeah, I agree. It's not exactly like say team sports. You know, we had when the Mets signed Mike Piazza, they had the Mike Piazza seats. Those seats that were right behind home plate, and what they charged for them pretty much paid his salary.
Yeah.
So so you know, it was worth it for both the Mets and for Piazza. And I guess for the people that got that nice up close seat, as long as they could afford it. And I guess that happens with well, I know that it happens with other athletes now. You know, they go, how could they possibly pay some of the baseball players $400 million? And that's the reason. They take the number of people that show up at a game when that player is in the lineup as opposed to being out of the lineup, and times that by 80 or 160, and it comes out, you know, it's worth it. They can afford the salary.
Yeah,
30 million a year, whatever.
I think all contracts that are above about 10 million a year, the baseball owners are regretting right now.
Yeah, well, now it's
Garrett Cole doesn't seem like a good deal anymore.
So this is hurting everybody. It doesn't matter what level you're at or what you do. This is just, we got to get through this somehow. You know, hopefully they find the vaccine.
I would think the next guy to have their name on a ball right now, that makes sense. I mean, Motive being the size they are, and EJ being their flagship guy, I wouldn't be surprised to see
Yeah.
their name on a ball. We had
Yeah,
a lot
I think it would sell.
said, thank you for all of, your great service with Brunswick for all the years.
Oh, that was nice. Yeah.
And then your fifth best ball rep, Chuck Gardner. Talking to a legend.
The thing about Chuck is that one of the things that I love about Chuck is that Chuck is a rooter, and it really helps when somebody's rooting for you, and so when Chuck is in the back, if you really ever noticed or not, unless you're with Chuck all the time, when Chuck roots for you, he's clapping all the time, and Chuck's claps are twice as loud as everybody else's at half the speed, and so it's Chuck. He's watching you, and you know that he's rooting for you, and it's always nice to have somebody in your corner in the crowd. It's a great help. So I love Chuck being there. And now, I mean, and they don't get too much of a chance to clap for me that much anymore as I keep getting older. So a friend of mine said, what's going on, like right now, what happens in your life at this point it's so true. Like losing this year, for instance, is enormous. He says we're like a roll of toilet paper. The closer we get to the end, the faster it goes. And that's exactly right. The years were sort of slower when you're in your 20s and 30s. Boy, they're flying now. They're just going by real quick.
So you hear talk about the old days and how it used to be, and on the road and all. What's your best on the road story from?
Well, I'll give you a story about me, which is a little bit embarrassing, but I think it's cute. And then I'll tell you one about Salvino, which is Salvino's he's the best. I'll tell you a quick one about his and one that's a little longer. Well, I joined the tour in '65, and what had happened was there was some big events. I think it was in skiing going on in January of '66. So the PBA we bowled two tournaments in December of '65 that were going to be shown in '66 because they needed all of their cameramen to be in Europe at that time. And so the first one that they did was Edison, New Jersey, which, a half hour from my house. I could drive there. That was great. And the second one was Denver. Well, I just joined the PBA. I wanted to bowl in everything. I'm 18 years old. So I fly out to Denver to go bowl the tournament. And at that time, only 16 bowlers made match play. And I surprisingly have a really good qualifying, and I make match play. And my idol, is Dick Weber, because I had watched them do an exhibition in Madison Square Garden. By the way, they set up 2 lanes in the garden, and when I was 13 years old, and Weber and Carter and Marion Ladderwig and Judy Audsley came in to do the exhibition, who today is Judy Sutar. But she had done so much when she was by the age of 16 that Brunswick signed her, and she's doing this exhibition with these 3 icons. And the exhibition was so great, and Weber was so great the way he talked to you after he was done bowling and everything. That was, when I left, I said, that's what I want to do. I want to be a pro bowler. I want to be like Dick Weber, So 5 years later, I'm on tour, and I'm in Denver, and I make match play. And it's the first 8 games of match play on Friday. And it's around the middle of the block, and I have to bowl Weber, who also made match play. And Weber is at the ball return, and thank God all he was doing was airing his hand. And I'm sitting back, and everything hit me at the same time, thinking inside my head. I said, I'm 18 years old, and I'm a member of the PBA, and I'm in Denver, Colorado, bowling in a PBA tournament, and I made the finals, and which I can't believe. And I not only made match play, but I'm bowling Dick Weber, and then without realizing it, what blurts out of my mouth is, can life get any better than this? And I said it loud, and Dick Webbers stops airing his head. He turns around, looks at me, he starts to smile. It was, oh my God. I didn't say this. I wasn't thinking this. I said this out loud. It was an embarrassing moment, but it really, at the same time, I realized how much I loved what I was doing, starting the PBA. In fact, I remember when I came home and my father said, well, how was it? And I said, I hope I can get good enough to make a living out here, because if I can, I'm going to have a great life. That was, how much I fell in love with the tour right away. But two things about Salvino. Salvino is, he's special, I think it was my last Tournament of Champions. Salvino's crossing with Belmonte, and our pair is following their pair, and we got done bowling. As we moved to the next pair, at that point of the tournament, Belmonte is 400 over, and Salvino's 400 under. And now Karma's finishing his game. He's on the bottom, and he's finishing his game, and he gets up and he's 400 under. And he lets the ball go. And as soon as he lets the ball go, he hitches his pants and starts running it out. And he hits dead flush, and it splits the 8-9, and for a strike. And he's all excited. And when he comes back, Belmonte says to him, Carmen, he says, you knew that ball was going to split the 8-9 as soon as you let it go, didn't you? And Carmen says to Belmonte, listen, boy, he goes, I knew that ball was going to split the 8-9 before I got on the approach. Typical Carmen. He's only 800 pins behind him. But when in the summer of '71, Carmen, we were going to bowl in Palatine, Illinois, and it's like July of '71. And a proprietor in Chicago, Frank Husband, his name's Frank Husband, bowled on tour. He owned the 16-laner. And we were going to go out and play golf. I had to meet him at the bowling alley. And I walk into a 16-lane center, 9 in the morning. You expect it to be completely dark, which it was, except for lane 16. And I look back because I hear somebody yell, like, yeah, as they let the bowling ball go. And I look over, and it's Carmen. And I heard this yell, and now the ball comes out, and the next shot that he's going to throw, he lets the ball go, and I hear him yell, watch that one, it's going to pop him, and about that time, Frank Husband comes out, and I said to Frank, I said, what's he doing? And he says, Carmen, oh, he's practicing his act for his public. And I said, what? He says, Carmen doesn't consider himself just a bowler. He considers himself an entertainer. And so he has to practice his entertainment so that the public that's watching him really enjoys it, And wow. Well, he's got this floor-length mirror leaning up against the wall. And now when picking up a ball, he stands in front of the mirror. And I see him hold up his 2 fingers like this. And he starts going like this, really, really slow. And then he starts going faster and faster and faster, and he's kicking his head back and opening his mouth. And he goes with his hands like that. And I look at Frank Husband and I go, what the heck was that? And Frank says, I have no idea. I've never seen that before. So now in the fall of 1971, at that time, the Japan Cup, only 8 bowlers get to go to Japan. And the first thing, you're going to travel all over the country, and you're going to do things. And they tell us that the first night that we're going to be presented with kimonos. And forget about what I was saying in Japanese, but once you hear your name, walk up there. There'll be a girl that is going to present you with a kimono, and she'll bow to you, and you take the kimono and you bow back to her, and you walk off. So each one of us that goes up there to get our kimono, one at a time, after they present us with the kimono, you hear the crowd applauding. And as you get pretty much back into the settee, the applause starts to die down a little bit. And that's the end of it. And Carmen was the last one. And Carmen's name is mentioned. He goes up there, and the girl gives him the kimono, and he accepts the kimono, and he bows to her, and she bows back. And he starts to walk off, and the applause starts to die down a little bit, and Carmen stops and lays the kimono across the ball return. And he looks at the crowd, and he goes like this, and he holds up his two fingers, and he starts going like that. So they keep clapping. And the faster he moves his fingers, the more they clap. And by the time he's got his head thrown back and he's doing this as fast as he can, they're in a standing O, and he goes like that, and they stopped on a dime. And Carmen's been, the place went hysterical, and Carmen's been practicing this for 6 months. You know, that's always been Carmen. Like, it's you have to entertain the public. That's a very big part of it. It's very important that if they're coming to see you, they want to see something. And that's, I guess, in a way, a couple of things that got missed was by in sports here. You know, so he's one of a kind, Carmen, and you know he's 86 now and still in great shape, still as smart as a tack, and a special kind of guy.
Barry Lickstein listening. I think Tap is in here somewhere. Barry Asher's listening too. And look who's joined us. Mr. Belmonte said, I let Johnny doubles 100 years ago in Vegas. Sorry.
You know, no, he didn't let me down. We bowled. They had an over/under doubles. You know, and Jason, you know, he came over from Australia. By the way, and he wanted to know what Haas meant because Larry is there. He thought we were actually ranking him out or something. We're trying to explain to him that this is a good thing, you know. And so we're getting ready to bowl the doubles, and I said to somebody, I'm trying to remember who it was. I said, "Where do you watch this kid throw the ball? This is amazing to watch, you know, because he's a two-hander and you've never seen anything like it." And not to disappoint. Jason's first shot, the very first shot he throws when we're starting to bowl our qualifying, is he hits the swish spot, and the head pin comes off the wall so hard that it hits the right wall and takes the 10 pin out on a fly and comes back spinning like a helicopter into the 7-pin spot. And, you know, the whole crowd goes, whoa, you know, and just, they couldn't believe it, you know, and we ended up qualifying second on our squad. We missed by like 5 pins or something, and we bowled well, but we ended up qualifying second. And they're supposed to take 3 or 4 teams off of each squad to make it, but then they tell us that because of the amount of entries, we're only allowed to take 1 off your squad, and so we don't make the cut. And, you know, Jason bowled really well. There's no problem there.
Yeah, the head pin coming off the wall, tomahawk in the 10, spin back around. Jason calls that frame 4.
4.
My career achievement.
Yeah. That happened to me once. It was a really long time ago. It didn't happen nearly as fast or as impressively before I kind of rolled around over towards the 7. But,
although I do have to give him a bit of a shout out. Jason's got a new ball video. He had to outdo everybody who's ever done a ball video before. So he threw 100 strikes for his ball review.
Is that all?
Oh, yeah, 100.
100.
I got to about 46 before I was like, I can't do this anymore. And in the 100, you get to see 2 angles of each strike.
No kidding. Oh, my.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's up there. It's a 27-minute strike fest. So if you've got half an hour of your life that you want to dedicate to the new Belmo ball, check it out on his YouTube page.
Okay.
I would copy it, but it might be more like a 45-minute video. So
I was about to say he shot 100 strikes, but it only took him about 160 shots to get there. So
that is, that's special. The when before I ever bowled in in regionals as a PBA member. You could enter a regional as an amateur, and we were bowling in this place that was really hooking a lot, and I was throwing it pretty hard then, when you're like 18 years old. And on this one shot, I'm still amazed that it happened. I threw it a little harder than I wanted to, and it looks like it's going to hit light. And at the last second, because the lanes were hooking so much, it made it right to the swish spot. And when it blew the rack, however it happened, the 5-pin got airborne, and you saw it disappear. And Ernie Schlegel was getting up on the lane to the right. I was on, say, 7 and 8, and he was on 9 and 10. So I bowled on lane 8, and Ernie on 9. If I let the ball go, he stepped it on the approach. He started to aim, and 4 pins came down on his lane because the 5-pin went up and over the wall and landed on his lane and knocked down 4 pins. By the way, do I have time for an Ernie Schlegel story? Or okay. Well, did you bowl? Chris, did you bowl when the Miller Open was still in celebrity lanes, red carpet celebrity?
I bowled celebrity when I was in college, but I did not bowl a PBA stop there. Okay,
so but that like on one side of the house they had all the white tile and white vinyl, and then the last one before you stepped up was black on one side and it was blue on the other side. And so because it was back to back, when you made the finals, half of the bowlers would be on one side, half of the bowlers would be on the other. And they had some stupid rule in the PBA at that time that even during the practice bowls before you started match play, a photographer wasn't allowed to walk out onto the approach. So Ernie and I had qualified like 11th and 12th or 13th and 14th, something like that. And we're bowling the first match of match play. And we're starting to practice on the side where there's the blue tile as the warning tile that you're stepping up on the approach. Yeah. And Ernie is looking, he's getting very upset because we're on like 31 and 2. And on 36, there's a photographer, a local photographer, who knows he's not allowed to step on the approach. So he's standing on the wall up against, leaning as far as he can to try and get a shot at the bowlers. And Ernie's getting nervous because like this photographer from a newspaper is going to bulls and step on the approach, And finally, the guy puts 1 foot on the approach to lean as far as he can to get pictures. And when this happens, well, Ernie is apoplectic by this time. He's ready to explode. And he says to me, and he goes, "Look at that guy, he's got his foot on the approach." And I said, "Yeah, Ernie, I see that. He's got his foot on the approach." And he goes, "One more step and his whole body's on the approach. What are we going to do?" And I said, "I don't know, Ernie." I said, "If he crosses the blue line, we'll call him for icing." So we get done 2 minutes later with our practice shots, and Ernie has to start the match. And he gets up on the approach on the left lane, and he starts to aim, and I see his shoulders start to shake. And he steps off the approach. It took him like 2 minutes to get what I said, and he puts the ball back down because he was laughing. And now he composes himself, and he gets back up on the approach, and he throws his first shot through the nose, and he leaves the 4-6. He comes back off the approach. Scorekeeper, he needs the tournament director. And Harry Golden comes down and said, "What's the matter?" He says, "I'm putting Petraglia on the report." And Goose says, "For what?" And he says, "He told me a joke 2 minutes before we were going to start, knowing that would throw me off and to make a bad shot. And he put me on approach that I had to go before the tournament committee the next week."
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, Steve Cook was the chairman of the tournament committee, and he's just, "You're kidding, Ernie." I'm not kidding. He goes, "Ernie, forget it." And he goes, "If this was somebody else other than me, you would have fined the guy." but because it's me, you're going to let him off the hook. Sorry. That's priceless.
That talking about that though, just a real quick one. One time we were in Naples bowling, and Amleto's bowling, and one of the Formula One drivers bowled on the European Tour a few times. Robert Kubitz is his name. He was a really good driver. He had a bad accident a few years back. But anyway, so he's bowling. He thinks it's the coolest thing ever, and he bowls in Vienna, and nobody bothers him at all. Like, he was having lunch with me and Dom, and this little kid came up with a pin, and Kubitz had put his knife and fork down, and the kid just looks at him and just gives me and Dom the pin. He's like, I don't know who you are. I'm just into bowling. And Kubitz thought it was like the greatest thing in the world. Well, anyway, fast forward, he's bowling the tournament in Naples, right? And the paparazzi hear that Robert Kubitz is bowling. So, like, he walks into the bowling center, he has his hood up, and they're like, well, then they go on for the 15 minutes practice, and he's bowling with Amleto, and they're bowling on the end pair, like 19 and 20. Amleto can't get a shot off because the paparazzi are all over the approach trying to take pictures of Robert Kubica. And I'm like, so not only is it annoying that Amleto, this Hall of Fame bowler who all of the Italian people know, he can't practice because there's cameramen, but to rub it in, they're not even taking pictures of him.
Oh, I can't wait to see Amleto the next time I see him about that.
They had to get, in the end, they had to like get a police to come here to get rid of these paparazzi out of the bowling center. But yeah, they just wanted pictures of Kubica because he lives in Italy at the time and he was racing for one of the Italian teams. But that was one of those where one life meets another in a really strange kind of way.
Yeah, we don't seem to get the respect we deserve, do you?
And there's Amleto, like these three paparazzi like on his approach, like, get out the way. No, whatever. So fun times though. Missed ball in those tournaments.
Peter Griffin says hi. Peter Griffin, if you don't know Johnny, that's Charlie Tapp. That's his pseudonym.
Is this his new name's Charlie? Charlie's new name is Peter Griffin? What is this?
The Family Guy character.
Yeah. Charlie, well, I have a lot of stories about Charlie, but we can't talk about it on
I posted the link to that Belmo video in the chat if anybody's interested. Just
okay.
By the by. So we're rapidly approaching the hour. So we could keep asking you stories all night, Johnny, but I think that we're going to wrap it up with our 10 questions segment.
Okay.
Chris is going to have to be a little more inventive, I think, with the questions than we normally are. I don't think which bowler is most likely to ghost you is necessarily an appropriate question.
No. We'll probably, we've moved some things around. We'll probably have a few different ones. There'll be some interesting answers because of different perspectives for sure. But you've been shut in since March, basically, right?
Yes. I think March 11th, something like that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to know the first thing you will do after social distancing is over.
After social distancing is over, the first thing I'll do. Well, first of all, I'm allowed to go play golf, but I think I'm going to run to the bowling alley and throw a ball because the bowling alleys aren't open yet. So I just want to get back on the lanes. That would be nice.
That's amazing. For as much as you bowled, that like you still want to get right back at it.
When guys ask why I do it, it's I love it. I still love it. It's when you every once in a while when you still hit dead stroke and you bowl that strong 1400 block and things, it's still the greatest feeling in the world when you get done. We're an individual against the elements with no defense. It's all about you. And that's what makes it so great. Well,
since I know Junior a little bit, what do you do to embarrass your kids?
What do I do to embarrass my kids? I guess I don't know. I don't know if it's embarrassing them or not, but with John John and Jamie are both bowled in school. And Jamie was a softball player, a terrific softball player, and John was a great baseball player. I guess really embarrassing them is if you're rooting a little too hard in the back and because you want to see them do so well. But I don't know if I've done anything to really embarrass them.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Junior may not need that much help anyway. So
I think he's got past the point. I think he's fairly chilled. He doesn't seem like he gets easily embarrassed.
No, I don't think so. With John, he's good in public. He does good with the public. He's got no problems there. and my daughter's a second grade school teacher, so she's pretty open too. It works out, deals with the kids.
I don't think that Johnny Jr. is taking your excuse that you brag about him too much very seriously.
Well, yeah. You know what? That could be embarrassing. That I talk about my kids too much. That's probably, yeah.
All right, so let's go back. This turn the time machine back a little bit. What's the most rebellious thing you did as a teenager?
The what thing that I did as a teenager?
It's rebellious.
The most rebellious thing I did as a teenager. Wow. Let's see.
We can't fact check you because this could literally be anything. So.
Well, and
there was no way.
The first time, I don't know how rebellious you would call it, but the first time that I got to drink, I was with a bunch of friends on New Year's Eve. We were 13, and we bought we had somebody buy us a bottle of Tom Collins mixer, and what goes into Tom Collins? I don't even remember. And vodka, not gin. Yeah, it was gin and Tom Collins mixer, and it was really cold out, and we went into the basement of an apartment building, and then we realized that we forgot cups. So we took a shot of the gin and a shot of Tom Collins and swished it around in our mouth, figuring this is like having a Tom Collins. And it took 2 shots of that to be completely drunk. And I remember walking outside and falling down on my face at around midnight. That was, but my parents never really knew, or maybe they did and didn't say anything because I kept throwing up when I got home. And they probably thought I just got sick, or they were smart enough to say, just let it go. He learned his lesson.
Yeah. All right. If you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be?
Jesus Christ. That's pretty easy. And it's just, so many questions I'd love to ask him, and that's simple. I don't even know who's in place after that.
Well, there is.
I didn't even realize that was your answer.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
I thought you were just teasing, oh Christ, let me think.
No, that's. I mean, I can't. Yeah, that's. I thought that was a pretty simple answer. I'm sorry about that, Stuart. I mean to throw you off.
Yeah. I've never heard anybody say that. That's cool.
Thanks.
What's one thing you would have told rookie you back in 1965?
Wow, that's what would have told rookie you. I think I think I made, as far as a bowler, so many mistakes mentally. Being a kid, I didn't. I think I might have idolized the idols too much. And I think I probably should. I was a little too immature at 18 to really understand, because I remember in my first tournament, I was crossing with Ray Bluth, and I had Harry Smith to my left. And my very first frame, I left the bucket, and I remember thinking, please don't miss this spare, because these 2 Hall of Famers are going to go, who's this kid? He really sucks. That's so I think probably maturity would have helped a lot more, and just I got so lucky to win when I was 19 that maturity was probably the big factor. I should have learned how to pace through a tournament better in the beginning, and that's what I would tell most rookies, that watch the stars. When you're not bowling, get in the stands, watch the stars, watch what they do, watch how they move, and watch how they pace themselves through a block. It's very important.
That's a great answer. Let's see. What's the oddest or most unique product you've ever endorsed?
The most unique product, it would have to be the Super Touch, because that whole thing was supposed to work. That if you pick the piece that's curved in the back stops that finger from bending back, and that would keep your instead of wearing a wristband, you would wear that to keep your wrist straight without anything going around your wrist. And the way that they would explain it is, if you put your hand on a table and you take your index finger and bend it back, your wrist automatically wants to bend back. If you don't bend that finger, the wrist will stay straight. And this is like the muscle memory of what it did. Hey, as long as they were going to pay me for it, well, if you say so, I'll give it a shot. You know? What's that?
Were you involved with the steel fingers too?
Steel fingers?
Yeah, with an orange or something like that.
Oh, no, that wasn't me. That was something else.
I think Asher had the Sansabelt pants or something for a while. Then when you doing the pants,
yeah,
and stuff. There's been all kinds of. He told me some great stories about that. But let's see. Well, you've had a couple of these over the years. Your best and worst roommate, and why?
My best and worst roommate, and why? Well, I love Kenny Hall. Kenny Hall he bowled on tour. He was a great guy, but he had a violent temper. So what would happen with him is the way that he would control his temper is that he just, instead of exploding, he wouldn't talk. And that could drive you crazy. Like if he bowled a bad last game to miss a cut and you've got 3 or 4 days till the next tournament starts, the only thing you heard out of Kenny was yes or no. Where would you like to go to dinner? How about we go to Outback? Okay. And that's the only thing he would say, to be silent during dinner and everything. And then the next week, if he bowled good in the tournament, everything would go back to normal. So I guess you would say that would be the worst. The best, I roomed with Davis and Sutar were great rooming with, but Ski Feremski, he was in a class by himself. Ski is still alive, and he's in his 80s. And Ski had a knack of always keeping you happy, and he had his ways of getting away from bowling that you had to do well. Like, for instance, what he would do is, when we would get done with a tournament and get to the next tournament, the day before the practice session, we would find out what was a great restaurant in town, and you had to get dressed up in a suit. This was Ski's rule. And the two of us would go out to dinner in this great restaurant, all dressed up. And the one rule was that we could talk about anything except bowling. And talk about sports, talk about women, talk about anything you wanted, but we couldn't talk about bowling. And by the time that you had the practice session the next day, your head was pretty clear. You weren't, if you bowled bad the week before or you blew a check or something, it was out of your head by the time you got to the next stop. And the other best thing, Ski was, without a doubt, the cleanest person I've ever been with. If he wore something once, that was it. When he would wear that suit when we would go out to dinner, he'd take the suit and throw it in the corner because it had to be dry cleaned before he was going to wear it again. Everything that he wore was the exact same thing. And when he went into the hotel room, he would take one of the towels and fold it and lay it on the counter on the vanity. And then everything that he had, his toothbrush, his toothpaste, his razor, you name it, all had to sit on that towel, all had to face in the same direction, and you know, and in that sense, he was funny and he was disciplined at the same time. He was a great roommate.
All right. Well, we'll wrap this up with the last question, and it's a couple of parter as well. But who was your favorite person to beat? Whose number did you have, and who had your number?
Well, first of all, Don Johnson had my number. We bowled on TV 6 times, and I was 1-5 against them. I beat him in the Tournament of Champions, and he beat me all the other times on TV. The person that I enjoyed beating, I don't know if I would say exactly enjoyed it, but I loved bowling Earl on television, and I bowled Earl a lot on TV, and our 50-50. We actually bowled for the title 5 times. Wow. And I won twice, he won twice, and the other time for the title was when it wasn't on TV, and we tied in the title match. It was pretty interesting. And because he had like an 8-pin lead going into the final game, and there was no stepladder at that time, he wins the title because we tied. You know, wow. So we got the same amount of bonus pins. But it was, you know, it always is much more exciting bowling for a title if you're bowling who you consider the best or one of the best. It's that's, you know, that's what it's all about. There is no more fun than pressure. I think you know, I had a martial arts sensei that said to me, you know, when you get up and in that 10th frame and you need a strike, he said that, think about this. He says your palms are sweating a little bit. You're a little bit nervous. Your heart's beating fast. And he said, now look at it this way. When else do you get to feel like that? If you think really hard, you feel like that when you're on an icy road in your car, or you're in bad weather when the plane's got to land, or you're walking down a dark street that you don't know much about at 1 o'clock in the morning. He goes, those are all the bad things. He says, your pressure now is a good thing. If I throw a strike, they give me this much money. And if I don't throw a strike, they give me this much money. And he goes, that's where the fun is, because everybody else is thinking, there's a million people out there would love to feel the way I do right now. And they never get a chance to feel that. And until they do, they really know what they're missing. And that's always been a great thing. It's, yeah, I guess that's the best way for me to answer it.
Well, I appreciate it, Johnny. That's 10 frames with the Godfather. And we had some answers we've never had before on this show.
We did.
So,
did you? Oh, okay.
We've had the name used in vain, but never as the favorite person to have dinner with. So
that's good. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to. Oh, in all honesty, I'm trying to think of who would be second. You know, I really can't come up with somebody, but.
It's kind of like Stu says, the gap between first and second, the gap between 24th and second is closer than the gap between first and second, I think, with that pick.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's very true. That's
money and everybody else, and then, you know.
Like Jerry Seinfeld said, if you win a silver medal in the games, you're the first loser. So he goes, bronze medal, you got something, a gold medal, you're the best, but if you got the silver medal, you're the first loser. That's how he put it. I don't necessarily agree with him, but it was a good joke.
I always look at medals over. Gold is brilliant, and then after that, it doesn't really matter what color it is. Medaling is what you want to do. Winning's where it really matters. The difference between a bronze and a silver medal is nearly irrelevant as far as I see it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree the same way.
The difference between a bronze medal and not a medal is huge. But
yes,
the difference between bronze and silver.
Yeah, if you finish fourth, it's just total disaster. You know,
unless you bowl, and then you probably get a bronze medal anyway.
My wife says, I love how much you love bowling. It comes through loud and clear. Thank you so much for sharing. So inspiring.
Well, thank you guys. It's been great being on the show. Hopefully I'll see you guys at the league. I hope it happens.
Yeah,
and,
too.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
we'll have a glass of wine. All right.
There we go. Rumor they serve alcohol there. So.
Right. Okay. Well,
there you go. Larry Lichstein. John and I have had dinner 300 times. Never once was I bored. The story's lasted for 50 years.
well, make sure you get Lichstein on your show. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. We might need to get PA back on to translate for us, though.
Okay. You're going to need at least 2 hours, too. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again. And yeah, we'll see you around.
We'll see you around. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Johnny. Thanks again for coming on. As usual, I'd like to take a moment. See our sponsors are scrolling across the bottom. Support them when you get a chance, as well as any small businesses. They're all kind of struggling right now. So I think that's important all the way around. So as the cases are going up, once again, for everybody that's out there, thanks for joining us. Stay safe, stay healthy, and God bless.
God bless. Yeah. Okay.